evening, everyone. My name is Keen Chase, and I would like to welcome you to our first episode of our parenting program, Step by Step. This evening, we are going to be speaking on early childhood experiences. Exactly what is early childhood experience? How is it that we can benefit from our childhood experiences and how it shapes us? It's very important for us as parents to reflect on this and to learn from it also. I'm going to start by my immediate right asking my panel to introduce themselves. So we have first.
I could put a handle to the name. Reverend Connie Anthony. I am a pastor and minister with the Guyana Missionary Baptist Church, but more so I am a commissioner on the Rights of the Child Commission and part of the Child Rights Alliance. That's why I'm here tonight.
Fantastic.
Right. I am Will Campbell. Good evening, everyone. I'm a psychologist, a marriage and family therapist, and I also teach psychology at the University of Ghana.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Laverne Thorne. I'm Executive Officer for Early Childhood Development at Child Care and Protection Agency.
Okay, so as you would have heard, we have a panel full of experienced persons. And the theme for tonight, like I would have mentioned, is that of early childhood experience. So I would like us to start right off by just maybe sharing something about our childhood. You, in the introduction, we have a commissioner, we have a psychologist, we have somebody attached to the Child Care and Protection Agency. We know the Child Care and Protection Agency is one of the most important agencies here in Guyana as it relates to family welfare and children. And persons might be wondering exactly how is it that your childhood experiences would have shaped where you are today. So we can start with Mr. Campbell, being the lone male.
All right. What I let me start by saying what I'm grateful for with regard to my early childhood experiences. I had great parents. I have great parents, and I say that because they spent a lot of time talking, and I suspect that I made them talk more than my other siblings combined. But one great thing that the thing that I'm most grateful for as an adult now is that they kept teaching, they kept reminding me. Of course, there was the licks, but you know, now, well, not necessarily right now, but when I transitioned into adulthood, my parents' voices became the voice of my conscience, and until that time when I was mature enough to be my own conscience, and that is, that is what I'd like to share right now.
All right. Miss Anthony?
For me, my early experiences as a child, I felt that I really had great parents too. Both my parents, my father and mother. My father was a very quiet person, and my mother was the person who would be the discipliner in the home, as usual. In most homes, you would find that. But my mother, I think she raised us off of the bad experience that she had as a child, growing up with step parents and so on. So she wanted a good experience for her children. So I think we were fortunate as children to have a mother who would have had that experience and not want her children to experience those things. So there was lots of love. She showed us with love, and she did her best in whichever way. And that is what I want to give back to my children, and I have been doing that.
For me, well, I don't remember much of my childhood, but I do remember I was my father's princess. Daddy would never touch me. He would never raise his hand at me. But oh boy, my mom was a disciplinarian. And I'm very thankful for the way she would have raised me. I mean, back then, you're thinking, oh, this woman is so abusive. Why is she doing such things to me? But then, she was doing what she thought was best for you in her way of raising you. And sometimes you look back and you say, well, I'm thankful for the way she would have done her best to assist us in raising us, actually. So today I'm just thankful that she did what she did. Well, I can't say I'm fortunate as you to have my parents. They're both deceased, and I reflect and I do thank God. Even though there were trying times, there were struggling times in our lives, my mom was still there. She was always there, always praying. I remember I had a very serious incident once, almost being abused. I went home, long after it came out, and my mom said, something happened that night and something woke me up, and the Spirit was just telling me to pray for you. Pray, pray, pray. And her prayer kept me from being abused that
Wow.
night.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for sharing. Listening to the three stories from our panels, it brings me to our question because there was a common theme. You had a lot of love, you were showered with affection, you had parents who were present. We know in many cases in the Guyanese society that is not always the case. Not many children do have parents who can show them that love and affection. So, from your experience, your thoughts, how do you feel the children who grew up in homes where there's limited affection, limited love, limited compassion? And I use the word limited loosely because in some cases there's no love, no compassion, no sort of affection. Is that something that's going to influence these children? Do you believe so?
Yes, definitely. I think it would influence children because the way you treat a child, that child would take it throughout his or her life, you know. And if I am not loved when I grow older, I have low self-esteem. I don't know how best to relate with people. My anger is always up because, and I don't know, sometimes I become an adult. I have a young lady or a man. I don't know. I was not loved. I don't know how to show that love. So it will influence your life when you become an adult, you know. So I think, yes, definitely the experiences that they have, and if they're not loved in that home, it will definitely impact on their lives.
But what about those parents who are listening and saying, I don't have to say I love you
Right.
to mean love?
Definitely.
I think a child needs to hear "I love you," and that child needs to feel from that parent that he or she is loved. I mean, I have a 4-year-old, and I try every time, every opportunity I get to let her feel and know that mommy loves you. I say to her, mommy loves you. Growing up, I never heard my mom say, I love you.
But you knew she loved
I
you.
knew she loved me, but I never heard her say, I loved you. And you know,
Do you think that that would have contributed positively or made a difference to the relationship that you would have shared with your mother?
yes, it did affect our relationship. I can say I hadn't a good relationship with my mom because, of course, all the blicks we would say and all of that. The relationship was not there. But then when I grew older and I got the knowledge that I have now, I realized that your parents genuinely love you, but because of situations and circumstances, they react and they do the things. And then I realized, you know, my mom was frustrated. She had 6 of us, no father. She was sick. She's not working. Where is she getting the money to support us? And all of this is telling on her, and the only way she knows is probably to lash out or whatever. And so it affected our relationship, yes, until she died. I went back to her grave like 2 years after, when I became aware of what was happening, and I wept. I wept there, and then I felt like if I was really relieved and felt like something was lifted, and I felt
Yeah.
loved. I mean, it sounds crazy.
No, it
but,
doesn't.
But definitely
Right,
that is what
absorb
happened
whatever.
for me because I was carrying that thing,
Wait,
thinking
yes.
that my mom,
Didn't.
didn't love me.
Yeah, I think what is more, I think that the expressions of affection, showing that you love the child is more important than saying it, even though saying it is vital. And love and affection. Let me use my own experience. I grew up in a home where I knew I was loved. There was no question about it. But I don't recall ever hearing it. Might have been said, in fairness to my parents, but I don't remember ever hearing it said. And hugging and so on was not a normal part of my childhood experiences. When I became an adult, um, hugging and showing, a physical expression of affection was difficult for me. Something that I had to learn as an adult, and so it affects you, and it also affects your parenting. And if you don't, people can't give what they don't have. If you were not given love in your childhood, then it becomes difficult to pass love on to your children. And so children who grow up without that affection may experience difficulty showing affection to their children in turn.
So true. One of the things I remember when I was at university in psychology class. We were we did doing maternal deprivation, and there was this Harry Harlow did a research on love and affection, how it impacts a child, and his experiment he did with young monkeys that he took from their parents, and he had like set up two surrogate model mothers. One is he made just out of wire, and he put a feeding bottle there, and the other he used a terry cloth. This terry cloth would give warmth, and he wrapped around that modeled mother. And they noticed that when these young monkeys who were taken just a few days from their parents went, when they were hungry, they went to the wired mother with the bottle, and they took their feed. But as soon as they were finished, they went to the mother with the terry cloth. So where they really felt the warmth and the connection, and they felt maybe some form of affection there. So I think coming out of that study, it showed that children, yes, their basic needs, you need to meet their basic need, but what they need more is love and affection, because they went to the surrogate mother with the terry cloth, and they spent most of the time until they were hungry. And from that we can, it tells us that we ought to show the love and affection. I know back in the days, persons would have, especially our, maybe I don't know if it's just a Guyanese culture, we know that our parents love us, but they don't really hug us and say it, and it kind of, you kind of feel, I too, I knew my mother loved me, but I didn't have her hugging me up and saying I love you, even though you know it. And you can't even express that. You love your children, but you can't hug them and say I love you and so on. But they know that. So I think we have to show affection too, not just saying it, but we have to show it.
Definitely.
I think one of the things that's coming out, which I'm so happy about tonight, is that we have three persons from three different backgrounds, and there's such a commonality between the three of you, which really reflects what is the situation in the Guyanese society to a large extent. Why are persons who are listening, do you feel it is that they might say, but how can I show love? How can I show affection? What more do they need? And it was said, we pay the school fees, they get the new uniform in September, the shoes, we pick them up from school. What else do I need to do? Because there are parents out there who may be watching us saying, I do all these things. What are these people really talking about?
What about spending some time with the child on your lap?
That's the magic word. Time.
What about spending some quality time with your child on your lap? Rather reading a book, just having a conversation. Even if the child is old and you want to put the child to sleep, just spend time with your child, listening to your child. Not just listening with our ears, but listening and observing with our eyes. Exactly. We're listening with our eyes, we're checking their body language. What is it that they're telling us, And that way, I think that's what else we can add to buying the clothes, and of course, hug them as much as possible. Let them feel that, because a hug goes a very far way. I think we can all agree. Sometimes
That's
without
true.
and a hug. I
That's
remember
very true.
one day I was at nursery school when I was a teacher, and I was really down, really, really down and out. And I went to school, and a little child came. She said, "Teacher, what's wrong?" I said, "Teacher's not really well today." And she said, "Teacher, you want a hug?" Well, I would always hug them. I said, "Yes, darling, thank you." And she came and she hugged me. And believe you me, after she hugged me, that little child, I was good. So if a child can hug an adult, and the adult can feel such relief, what about an adult hugging, holding, spending time with a child?
I had an experience where I went to visit a children's home, and there was this child that is known to me also, because I work in the probation system. And I saw him, and I tried to reach out to him, and he just pulled back. He wasn't saying anything. He had his face serious and so on. And I knew, because from our experience working with children, we know that you don't take that just, the actions and just deal with them and how they behave. So I said to him, "Can I have a hug?" And even though he was, had this resentment and so, when I said, "Can I have a hug?" he came to me and he squeezed me, he hugged me, and tears came out of his eyes. that impacted me. I'm not sure what was going on with him, but I knew sometimes just a hug or just, that kind of affection can go a far way. So sometimes as caregivers, and so we just need to, the children may not be ours, but just to stop, to hug them, and even though they may not be behaving the way we want them to
Yes.
behave, just to say I love you regardless.
Yeah. You 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 raise something that a lot of parents struggle with, and that is a balance between providing and and showing affection. And we have become materialistic. I was going to use a different
Yeah.
word. Society where providing things
Yes.
is more important than spending time. One person put it this way: we spend so much time, we expend so much time on making a living that we forget how to live.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we can really show love to our children is by, to repeat what you said, is to spend time with them and to really listen. um, we have to strengthen our listening skills, and we have to
Yes.
learn how to listen to children, because it's different from listening to adults. And children, more than being listened to, must feel that they are being heard.
Definitely.
They must feel that they're being heard. And one of the things one of the mistakes that many of us make is we suppress their expression, and we tell them that they shouldn't be angry, or that they shouldn't respond when we say anything to them. But they need to be heard, and when children feel heard, and it becomes easier for them to feel our love for them.
Yes, very
And
true.
just to add, sometimes we think definitely that children are not, of course, very young children, as though they're not able to express themselves, as though we can't have them involved in decision making in the home and all of those things. Those are ways that you can listen to children, have children participate.
Exactly.
What do you think about the paint that we want to use? It's simple as that. What do you think? What should we cook today? Those are simple things that you can ask them and have them involved, so they feel respected. They feel that you're
Yes.
listening to them. Allow them to express themselves. If I know my child, sorry that I have to refer to my
That's
child
fine.
because sometimes she would say, "Mommy, you listen. Mommy, please listen." And I would say, "Okay, I'm listening. You say what you have to say." Then I say, "All right, are you finished? Can I speak now?" So you need to listen to me. So we have that two-way communication between us. So I give her what she needs, and I would encourage parents to at least try and listen. Let your children say what it is that, of course, and, listen to them. Let them say, and you respond in an appropriate way to
Tina,
them.
I don't know if I shared this with you already. I remember visiting. I had to be, because part of my duties at work was to go to Lusignan prison and engage the prisoners. And I remember we had anger management group session with them, and we were interacting. And one of the prisoners said to me, he said, "Officer, let me tell you, I grew up in a home where things were provided for me, but nobody took time to spend with me." He was fortunate to have gone abroad and live with his father, and I don't know if his mother or stepmom, but he said that he was doing good. He was an A student, doing good all through his classes, but nobody was there to say to him, to praise him, because being an A student, nobody. When he got home, he had the chain around the key around his neck. When he got home, no one was there. When he was at school, it was a time when, because of, how they work. So he said when he started to act up in school and so on, that's when at home they started to pay attention to him. He said his grade began to drop, and then everybody, now they're worried. Nobody was praising him when he was getting A, but now his grades are dropping. What is wrong with you, and so on. And he said he began to get involved in different kind of thing in
Activities.
school, at school. And he said his father had to find time for the guidance counselor. He said he had different, for everything there was a different, the guidance counselor, the social worker, the school counselor. He said you had to, during the week, he had to go to about 4 different counselors, and the father had to take time out to do that.
And I underscore that a little bit. Very often, the only way our children can get our attention, and they need attention, is a basic need. Sometimes the only way they could get our attention
Negative.
is to act up.
Yep.
And they learn, it becomes a part of their psyche, that in order to get mom's attention, in order to get dad's attention, I have to misbehave. It's not good attention. I don't like this kind of attention, but it is attention, and they have to get attention. And so we need to ensure that our interactions with our children um, are not reserved for when they start to act up. When everything is going fine, we don't talk to them, we don't say anything to them. When they start to act up, that's when we communicate with them. That's when we pay attention. And we need to be very guarded that they don't only get attention when they're doing wrong. We need to catch them doing the right thing.
Yes.
And just one more thing that listening to you, we're talking about spending time and giving children attention. One of the things that eats away at me, I mean, now we're in a technological age, and so you would see parents on the boat, parents on the bus, and they're with the child, and everybody just texting away. Facebook has their attention, but on the way, going to school,
Yes,
going
the
wherever,
commute.
what about us talking? What about you having a conversation with your child? Just put away the phone or the tablet or whatever, just for that little time, and that child feels, a mommy and I are
And I
having
have to
something.
say, when it comes to parenting, one of the things for me, I think it's important teaching and learning at every opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So on your way in the bus, let's say you're coming from over the river, you can talk about the bridge, what the river is. Why is it that one bus is 42 and one bus is 44?
There's so much.
There's so much that you could talk to your children
Yes.
with. But we did a study at the organization ChildLink recently, which showed how difficult it was for parents to play with their children. We now, because we're living in this age where we're so busy, and like you said, Mr. Campbell, we are busy making a living instead of living. We have to attend classes to learn to play with our children.
Yeah.
They are classes where you attend,
So that's
where you learn to play with your children. So that's just telling us of where we're headed.
Yeah.
So that is something that's of grave concern, and that's why we're having programs like this to really educate the public that there are simple things that you can do.
Definitely.
We always talk about parenting. It's if not the most difficult job on earth. We were talking before the show began. You buy a cell phone, it comes with a manual. You buy a car, it comes with in Japanese, or it comes in English, it comes in Spanish. You make a child, and then what?
No manual.
Right? No manual. So it's we started to talk a bit on what may cause. We talked about the time and persons being so involved in making a living. But what are some of the causes that would cause parents not to show love, not to show affection, not to show compassion to their children?
I think I want to take that back. My response to that takes me back to that parent's upbringing. Like I said earlier, if this was not shown to them, it becomes difficult for them to show it to their children. Additionally, if in their childhood they were abused in whatever form, whether it was physical or verbal or sexual, parents who were abused in their childhood may find it difficult to express love to their children. Some parents have difficulty expressing love because of a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding of how this should be done. So there is no one reason really, and for a lot of parents, it's a combination of those challenges which make it difficult for them to express. And then we have I don't know if this is global, but a lot of parents feel that if you love them up too much, you make them soft, or you or you make them, they will disrespect you, so that you have to remain aloof and distant and disconnected. And so the child comes to hug them and like
Toughen them up. Yeah.
we're afraid that we will make them soft.
Yes.
Whereas, I mean, all of the experience and all of the studies show that when
Makes
you
them stronger.
express love to your children, they become more well adapted
Yeah,
as adults.
definitely.
And so, so there are many reasons why.
Yes. Anybody else would like to share before we go to break?
Yes, and we know that we have to look at mental issues too. Mental health issues
Very true.
is a big factor when it comes to showing affection and so on, and even raising and caring for children. And lots of persons are struggling with mental issues. So we have to look into that too.
Yes.
I would just mention the same things that I would have been mentioning before. Parents, many times single parent households. Maybe I have a father, but he's not there. He works a lot, and most time mommy is just rearing the child, or daddy alone, and finances. There are many factors that would cause parents to act out and not show children the love that they need to show to them. So many, there's not just one.
But you know,
Sorry. Miss Anthony mentioned, Reverend Anthony, you mentioned mental health issues, and I feel like I need to expand on that a little bit. When we hear mental health issues, we think of people who are quote unquote
Yes.
stark raving mad, but a lot of us are struggling with
Functioning, yes.
mental and with emotional issues. Some of us are experiencing anxiety and depression, and people are able to function normally with those challenges.
Very true.
But very often those challenges affect our relationships,
Transcends.
including our relationships with our children.
Yes.
So you could be a normal functioning adult and have mental
Yes.
health challenges.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll just take a 5 minutes break where we're going to show a video. ChildLink and the Child Rights Alliance embarked on a project where we went around Georgetown and we asked some parents exactly what are children's rights? Do they have rights? And it's very interesting for us to hear their responses. So we'll take a look at that.
Yes.
It depends on the age.
Yes, I believe children have rights.
Yes, they do.
Definitely, each children have the right to do and make their mistakes and so forth.
Yes, I do.
Well, the right that children have is actually to listen to their parents and take advice from elders and so forth. But to say that a child have right to do whatever they feel like, no.
They have a right to be protected, just as the adults have a right to be protected. So are the children, because the children are the future of our country.
Some of the right of children is to have an education, to not being abused, whether physically or mentally.
Children have the right to freedom, to schooling, education, having recreational time for themselves.
Some of his rights that parents shouldn't be ill-treating children, abusing them in certain manner. You know? There are many different views, many different ways, but they do have rights.
We just get some challenge with these children. The talk would not make them pay attention seriously when you talk. So maybe you give them 1 and 2 thoughts.
No, that's wrong. Looks not could never been picture, and let's just make sure and get more bad.
Yes, I think sometimes, because if you spare the rod and spoil the child, you, the parents, will suffer in the end. I'm not saying that you must abuse them, but I think that would, enlighten them and let them know how serious you are with them.
Definitely, because I do give my son a few lashes because it benefited me when I was young, and it made me the man that I am today, and not just a man, but a man that can actually bring up his son in the right way. So licks do benefit.
I came from a Christian background, and according to the Bible says, spare not the rod and spoil the child. So do what is right by scolding them or giving them a few lashes or something, or disciplining them in whatever area, it will benefit them, because from that alone they will be able to know that what they're doing is wrong, and they can learn from that.
No, I don't think licks benefits no one, especially children.
Well, first of all, the child should have the parents' protection, the mother or father. If not, some form of security from the government should be able to look into the rights of the children to see if they're being abused by some family member of the public or something, because the children are the future of tomorrow.
And as parents too, you need to protect your children because they are your children. And I think people need to, like older people, so they abuse them. They need to like have, the heart not to do those things because they are children.
We need more child protection agency coming on board, more visit at schools and talking, more social workers speaking to the children and finding out what are some of the things may bothering them or what's going on in the homes.
Well, it's from the parents have to be more cautious with them children. Don't abuse them. Talk to them the right way. Teach them right from wrong. That's it.
The parents play an important part in the children's upbringing, especially with schools. They should follow their child's curriculum, activities at school especially, because sometimes the children are given homework, they go home and they don't do it, or they say that no, they don't have, but the parents must have an interest in their children's upbringing.
First thing is parent. Like we have a lot of young parents. We need to educate the parents and so that they're able to have the right tool and the knowledge in order how to bring up their kids. So to protect a child is to get them involved in meaningful activities so that they can grow up to be good men and women of tomorrow.
All right, welcome back. And if you're now joining us, this is the Child Rights Alliance Child Link Step-by-Step Parenting Program. We'll be on every other Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. and we invite you to tune in and to be a part of the discussion. If you would have looked at the video just now, one of the things that you noticed, there were lots of various views as it relates to licks. Licks is a hot topic in Guyana, but we're not going to be focusing on that tonight. What we are focusing on is that of early childhood experiences. So as we continue on our program, one of the things that I want to let you know is that we have in our midst 4 other parents apart from our panel, who they have a lot of experiences with their children, and they have a lot of experiences to share as it relates to being a parent and the difficulties and the successes that life has thrown their way. What I would like us to start off with is, how do our childhood experiences shape us as parents? If you agree with that statement, does it?
Yes, I think it does. It does. Like I was just sharing with him, my experiences as a child, I had really, really bad experiences as a child. But I think, as one of the persons said just now, educate parents. We need to educate young parents and all of those things. And because of education, I chose not to do or not to raise my child the way my mom because of the experiences that I would have had. So it has influenced me, not in a bad way per se. I'm an exception. It hasn't influenced me in a bad way, but more as to be a more authoritative, not an authoritarian kind of parent.
We tend to, let me say it this way. Pretty much every parent can relate to the fact that sometimes as a parent you open your mouth and the words that come out are your own parents' words.
True.
We can't escape our upbringing. And so we tend to, our parenting, our childhood experiences shape us politically. They shape our religious choices. They shape our educational choices. They shape who we are as persons, as individuals. Our childhood experiences determine our sense of self, our self-esteem, our sense of worth. And so, absolutely, those things are going to shape the way we raise our children. And some of us imitate the way we were raised because we turned out okay, and so we just repeat what our parents did because maybe we don't know another way. Um, or sometimes it just expresses itself almost subconsciously. I mean, the times when I have said things to my children, which were things that were said to me, most often I didn't think, well, uh, this is what I'm going to say to my children. It just came out because those things are a part of who I am, and so my childhood experiences definitely affect the way I parent. Now, I try not to make the mistakes that my parents made because even though they were good parents, they did some things that, I mean, they admit themselves that if they'd known then what they know now, they would have done some things differently. So I try not to make the same errors, but that is not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, because definitely the things that you were saying, because the early childhood experiences that we have are the foundation, that's the foundation of our lives, and whether they be good or bad, they would influence our life to some extent, whether good or
Or
bad,
bad.
positively or negatively. So we have to be very careful. And one of the things that we at the agency that we're trying to do, we're trying to raise awareness to parents. You might have had a bad experience growing up, but what about us trying to reverse or change the cycle? What about us breaking it? So we're trying to educate parents, and the more we educate and try to do our part, I think we can, have some positive impact on our nation as we focus on our early childhood experiences for the generation that we have now.
I think for me, most of my parenting skills, I think I got it
Inherit?
from my mom.
Inherit?
Because as I said, she really tried, and because of what she been through, she tried to make our lives better. So there wasn't too much I had to deviate from, just controlling, even discipline, because she was a war to blow sometimes, and I found myself doing the same thing. But I think my last daughter would have experienced a little better because by that time I was
Definitely.
able
Yeah.
to be in a different place, my spirituality, my education level, especially going doing social work and those other things. So the older ones would say that she got away with more, but I had to change, and I think when I looked at her development now, I think it was basically a lot better, and I'm grateful.
That's great. All right, so we'll turn to our audience. Would you like to share as it relates to your childhood experiences? Do you think it has shaped the way you have parented your children?
That's a fact. Parenting and being parented has a very close relationship because you would find you would want to bring up your children in the best way. And the best way you would know is the way that you were parented. So you would use some of that, but then you have the flip side of it, where sometimes, well, okay, my dad did this, and I don't think this was right, so I'm not going to do this with my child. My mom did this, and I think this was good, and so and that's what parenting, the training of me in parenting would be. It will differ now as I grow educationally, experientially, and when I with the different experience that I would get, then I would now change some of the approaches that I have. So it's a work in progress. We never can have it
That's true.
right
That's
Yeah.
true.
because none of us are perfect. And so from time to time, it is okay to make a mistake,
I'm glad you said
but it is never okay not to repair it. And that's where the parenting comes in. When we realize that what we did was not right, we need to, and as the video show, we need to let our children know when we made a mistake. We must be parent enough to accept that I made a mistake and correct it with the child.
Great.
Well, for me, the one thing is I grew up in a home with my mom alone, and I grew up never really hearing her say sorry. So for me, as I was watching a movie the other day, I don't know if you know the movie Matilda, and the principal was saying, I'm big and you're small, and I'm right and you're wrong. So with my daughter, sometimes I find myself taking that approach. And sometimes she would say to me, Mommy, but what you did wasn't right. And I would be like, and so? And she would say, you don't know how to say sorry. And then it pulls me back to say that she is an individual too.
That's right.
And she is learning also from me. So I have to set an example in the things that I do sometime and in how I deal with her. And the other thing is too, because I grew up in the house without my father, and now that I am married, it's myself and my husband, and we're doing this parenting thing, it's hard for me because I knew my mother, she was the one, the authoritative one. And it was always her you had to go to. So sometimes when my husband gives an instruction, I would like to, sometimes I feel like I have to top that. So I try to put in my little bit. But then I have to remember that it's a partnership and that it's not
You alone.
You're
Me.
never perfected. Yes, it's
Yes.
never going to be perfected. I think being the only person here on set without children, I'm feeling wise already. I think one of the things that stood out, hearing you speak when you said you're never going to be perfect at it. And it's so hard, you know, sometimes as parents you say, if I give them this, that is what they want. If I give them, and sometimes it's giving, giving, giving. And like we were talking about earlier, you forget that with the giving, you also need to give the love, give the affection, give the compassion, give of the time. So it's important to find that balance. And I appreciate the fact that you said we are going to make mistakes, but never forget with those mistakes to say you're sorry.
But one thing we need to understand, that love cannot be found in things.
Definitely.
True.
And too many times parents make that mistake.
True, true.
I
Very
have
true.
given them a bicycle. I have given them the books. I have given them an education. As though, you know,
True.
we pick it up and we hand it to them.
True.
They did not have to go and study and to burn the midnight candle and to go through any kind of trials or troubles so as to get themselves to where they are. Right? And we believe, as I have given you this, that is love. No. Love is something that is affectionate. And it has to come skin to skin. The hugging, the embracing, the kind and quiet words, especially the I love you, is a very impacting way in helping an individual, and not just a child, but an individual to know that they are loved. They just don't want to see it, they want to feel it, and they want to hear it. Because that makes me who I am and transform me to being who I can make the others to come.
Great. All right, just before we wrap up, I want to get a little bit scandalous, so to speak, and ask this question. Parenting challenges, has there been a shift from the time you were children to the parents of today, or is it the same?
I guess I can say yes, there's a shift. Because growing up in my early childhood years, of course, I grew up with a grandmother. I grew up with grandparents in those early years. And in those years, you didn't have the television, the cell phone. You didn't even have the electricity for electric light. I grew up in the country where you had your lamp and you had to use, or you studied with that or whatever. Nowadays, there is so much distraction. So many things that are distracting parents from being parents. Apart from the normal things of life, like you don't have the money to do whatever you would like to do for your children and so on. There is also these other things that people are so taken up with that is taking up the place of being parent. The other thing is
in my days as growing up as a young child, you were parented by a community. The whole village parented you. Everybody was your uncle, everybody was your auntie, everybody was your cousin,
That's true.
and everybody looked out for the other person's and other person's child. They don't happen today. So there is so much falling away of the values and the morals and the things that really are important in shaping the life of a young child. And I don't know, we need to return to that. Growing up, church was a big thing. You had to belong to a certain church
That's true.
for you to get, certain privileges in your community. You have to have a godmother in the church. And all those things. Church is not important anymore. I heard it being said that children don't come with a manual, but I think they do.
Please
We
tell
have
me where
our
I can find
manual,
this.
but we don't follow it. God has given us a manual. It's the
that's
Bible.
That's right.
God
That's
is
right.
the person who created the children, us, right? We get the cellular phone, the television, whatever from
God.
whoever is the
Factory.
manufacturer. Who is the manufacturer? Who give us the children? But we don't go back there and we don't follow that manual. So we fail many times in our parenting. As a young child coming up, my grandparent, I might remember my grandmother. She would always sing hymns with me from a tender age. I learned a lot of little songs, lullabies, sankies and things from my grandparents. And she would sing to me, she would read to me and so on. So you grow up learning that. But nowadays, I guess
It's different. You see, as you said,
world
it's a lot of learning. We do have the Bible and whatever other religious books out there that can be a guide as it relates to parents. But let's hear from the panel. Do you think that there has been a shift? Because this is a conversation that we've had numerous times in the organization. We've had it at a family level for myself, where we're saying, children these days, they're spoiled, they have everything. Back then, like we just heard from a member of the audience, she had the midnight oil, literally, and then we moved on to somebody who might have one lamp, and then we have somebody who might have an AC room with the internet. But is there a difference? Is there a difference, and does that bring more challenges, or does it lessen challenges of parenting?
I think there is a difference because, like she said, we are so caught up in achieving things. Yes, we had a community. Now it's so dangerous. The community has become a place that we can't even trust. You understand? So now the community is not there to help us, to support us in any way because we can't trust. I might leave my child with a neighbor, something happens. We because of parents wanting to get more, to raise their status, they try to go study. I would have not done so so well while during my school days, or now that I have a child, I want to do better. I go study. Now I have to be studying, raising my child, my finances. So the challenges definitely are there. So yes, definitely, I would say that
We could have one final comment.
We
before
had
we
an
wrap up.
extended family that cushion a lot of what when we talking about child neglect and abandonment, and so the extended family cushion. Because for me, when I got my children, I had my sisters, and my mom, and they were, so I wasn't afraid. I could have gone.
Yes.
But there is not the extended family anymore. We find that lots of single parent home, so
challenges are there.
the children are left alone. And
Yes. All right. Well, Mr. Campbell, you get the final word before we wrap up.
I'm not sure whether I should respond to this question. I feel like it was dealt with already, but I'd like to say here that one of the best predictors of how a person will perform as a parent is how well they come to terms with their own past.
Yes.
And I think that as parents, it is important for us to resolve the issues of our past. And sometimes you may need some help doing this.
Very true.
You need to make sense of what happened to you, positive or negative. Make sense of your childhood experiences, so that you can make a determination as to what you want to carry forward, what you want to leave behind. what you want to add to what your parents did, what you want to subtract from it. And and this kind of reflection is not always an easy process. Many of us don't know how to do it.
Yes, yes.
And as I say to people everywhere, if you need professional help, get some professional help. It's available.
Yes. On that note, I just want to say one of the objectives of doing this show is not for us to push our ideas on you, but we really want parents and the wider society to take some time to reflect exactly where you are right now and where you have been, and look at how is it impacting positively or negatively. And like Mr. Campbell would have said, what is it that you can do to change that? Please tune in October 3rd for our next step-by-step parenting program. This was a Child Rights Alliance initiative. Also, if there is any sort of assistance that you might need, if you would like to share any comments as it relates to this program, please visit us on our Facebook page at ChildLink. You will get the contact information for all our panels here on that page. Have a good night, and thank you very much for tuning in.